Two timelines, one impossible mystery. Life is Strange Double Exposure follows Max Caulfield as she shifts between two timelines to solve a supernatural murder mystery after finding her friend Safi dead in the snow. In this parallel timeline, Safi is still alive and still in danger. With her new power, can Max solve and prevent the same murder? Buy Life is Strange Double Exposure, available now on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC. Rated M for mature.
Hello, fellow gamers, and welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. On this episode of This Week in Gaming, we're bringing the hype and the hope for Stalker 2, discussing the upcoming Path of Exile 2 early access release, and discussing romance in video games and whether developers feel obligated to add it as a feature. But first, some introductions are in order. I am your host, Josh, and joining me, he may not know much about romance, but he never misses one of Professor Garlick's classes. It's Ryan.
You don't know how on point that is right now, because my son and I are still playing Hogwarts Legacy, and I was in there. I'm like, we were running a mission to get one of the spells, and I was just like, man, she is one pretty lady. And my son, he's 8 now. He's like, yeah. I was like, yep.
Can't miss herbology class, man.
Never.
It's funny because I knew you were playing Hogwarts Legacy, and I was like, Ryan's gonna get this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, well, welcome in everybody. Hey, we finally got some news to talk about. Ryan.
We do.
You know, it's one of those things we like bringing people the latest video game news, but some weeks there's just not much out there.
It's a little scarce sometimes.
Yeah, but this week we thought, man, you know what? There's some good stuff to talk about. And Ryan, we're just going to jump into it because I know I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
And Ryan, are you excited?
I am so excited. I watched like the hour-something long documentary about making the game in Chernobyl and all of this stuff. It was, I'm beyond hyped now. The video worked.
Well, we are talking about the upcoming release of Stalker 2.
Yeah!
That is coming out before our next episode airs.
Yes.
So that means we're talking about it on this episode. And Ryan, I know that we've had a few games this year that we've been let down by, but Stalker 2 is our next great hope, buddy.
Yes.
And I kind of, maybe this is just pre-release optimism, but I'm feeling like this game's going to live up to the expectation.
I sure hope so. Everything that I've seen and everything that I've looked into and read, I'm beyond excited. I think it's going to hit all the marks. And I have just been itching for just a nice quality, gritty, like apocalyptic, the world's frozen in place and it's just chaos and destruction. And just that's why I loved Last of Us. I love The Division. I love these types of games. So I am so excited for this, dude.
Yeah, we talked about Call of Duty and the campaign for Black Ops 6.
Yes.
And we were both pretty blown away by that. And we both wound up saying, you know what, give me a 20 or 30 hour game that's like this, and I will be as happy as a pig in mud.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's my hope with Stalker 2, is that single player, first person shooter, story driven, open world-ish type campaign. It just sounds so good right now, man.
Oh yeah, and it looks so good. It's a pretty game, man.
It is a very good looking game. Now, you never played the first Stalker.
I did not know.
I never played the first Stalker. So this is our first foray into the Stalker universe as well. So it's like, not only like do we have the excitement of just this game coming out, but then it's like, ooh, okay, well now we get to experience this world that neither you or I have had any experience in at all. So I guess the news story here is that Stalker 2 has gone gold. That just means that there's no more changes to the game being made and that it is locked in for release at this point. I am super hopeful that this will be in Game of the Year contention.
Oh, please.
I mean, I don't know what to expect. That's honestly it. Like, I mean, we've seen the trailers. It's supernatural. It's, you know, it's set in like, I don't know, the old world USSR or Ukraine or something, you know, in that era. And, general geographic location. I know that there's these anomalies. I know that you're trying to survive. You have teammates, and again, there's story-driven stuff, but that's it. So it's like, I kind of have the excitement of going into a game not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And I just hope it doesn't backfire.
Hopefully not. It's one of those things where you're not sure, but everything you've seen so far is getting you excited and ready for it. So you just hope there's not that letdown. But like we said, I don't think it's going to be a letdown. I think this is going to hit. I think it's going to be great. I mean, they've put a lot of time and money, and they were even on that documentary I was watching. They were talking about how all the dev team, they were trying to get them out to personally be in those environments and walk the landscape that they were going to design to really get the feel of it. So you can tell it's passionate. It's something that they really put their hearts into, and I think it's going to hit, man.
That's just people wanting vacations, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Listen, I'm so convinced of these, like, we went on location to make sure we were true and authentic to the source material. I remember when we were covering Senua's Saga, for Hellblade 2, and they're like, listen, we went to Iceland and we looked around, and I'm like, you just wanted a vacation, man.
Hold on.
I don't blame you.
Who's trying to go to a radioactive wasteland on vacation, man?
Well, I mean, that was a long time ago, right? Well, Stalker 2 is releasing on November 20th. We are so hyped for this game. Please don't let this game suck. Please let it live up to the pre-hype that we have for it. I don't know when the review embargo is. I am anxious on that. I'm going to segue a little bit here, Ryan, because we do bring this up, and we do review games on our own. And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, wait a minute, you guys review games, so you get excited for game reviews? Like, I get excited for game reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that you put a lot of... I mean, we're gamers, right? Like we always say, we're gamers. So when a game review comes out and we get, Stalker 2 and it starts getting 8s and 9s across the board, I get really, really excited. Like when a game comes out and it's getting 5s and 6s, I go, oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to see, too, knowing what we know and what we do and how we look through the scope of reviewing a game. Again, we're just some gamer dads. We're not professionals, but we like to think that we put some time into it and we treat it, respectfully as far as the art of reviewing a game. And to see what people think and how they go about their review, it's always cool to see for me. But then again, also, like you said, just the hype meter. Is this going to be good? I'm excited to play it now because it's getting 9s across the board. So yeah, dude, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm willing to risk. We have a good friend that absolutely refuses to read or look at any review for a game that he's interested in, or movies for that matter. He just wants to go in completely blind, which I completely understand, but I just don't have that kind of willpower.
Yes.
I want to see what people are saying.
Yeah.
We always play these games regardless, so it's like I don't feel like reviews are necessarily going to sway me in any way, because it's like I know what I like. I'm not going to let somebody influence what I like, kind of thing. But it definitely will help the hype meter or crash the hype meter, depending on what happens there too.
Set expectations. What are you looking for?
Yeah. Well, talk about hype meter. Now, here is a game that I am personally very excited for. And Ryan, I asked you about this game before we started recording, and you kind of sneered at me because this game is a direct competitor to your beloved Diablo.
Yeah, if you can say that, I guess.
And that is a game called Path of Exile 2. I know that we have covered this in the past with some trailers and the announcement and all that stuff that we have seen for it. This is your classic action RPG a la Diablo, lately Diablo 4. Path of Exile 2 has always been kind of prefaced as the much more in-depth, complicated builds, massive skill trees, strategy and how you build out your character. And, one of my complaints with Diablo 4 was that there's only like 2 builds that I could viably play as like a rogue. And with Path of Exile, you get like 20 builds that you could actually build out and roll with. And I like that idea, even if it might be a little bit of overload. But Path of Exile 2 actually got delayed 3 weeks. The was it the CEO or the some guy that is over that he came out and I'm just going to call him the game director, leader guy, because honestly, nobody knows people's names and it doesn't really matter. So, but he came out and he said, listen, we have to delay this game 3 weeks. And here's why. And what's crazy with that is they said, I messed up. I'm not ready.
Yes.
And the reason for that is honest. I love honesty when developers come up with this stuff. But he basically just said, look, there's stuff in Path of Exile 1 that will carry over to Path of Exile 2. And if you have paid for battle passes or cosmetics or any of these things in Path of Exile 1, we want to make sure that you don't lose that, because that's a promise we made to people, that you won't lose any of that stuff in Path of Exile 2. And then they found out that they were not ready to ensure that this happened.
Yes.
And so they said, hey, sorry, everybody, the game itself, the game's ready. Like, that's not the issue at all. We're not worried about bugs and all that stuff. We are worried about people actually losing stuff on their account. 3 weeks is whatever. You know, I mean, it's not like they delayed it 3 months or even longer, but this does move the release date back to December 6th. So do you have any thoughts on either Path of Exile 2, since you're a Diablo stan, or just the honesty, man, of like developers starting to be a little bit more upfront with people, which I kind of find a very refreshing trend, and I really hope that continues.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about, transparency and communication, like just telling people, hey, this is the deal. We messed up on this. It's a couple more weeks, few more weeks. This is why. Our bad. But we want to make sure that it's going to work properly for you. So I get it. I'm not the biggest microtransaction guy. I think maybe you could release it and then do the update later with the transferring for people who don't care about micros. I don't know. But the biggest thing I think from what he said was like the server issues, making sure everything transferred over, backwards compatibility. They didn't lose stuff like you said. So just to be able to come out and say that. And, everybody's so afraid of, losing their job nowadays. It's people don't have a leash like they used to. So you do something wrong, you mess up, especially on something this large when you're kind of a major head of that and you just mismanage the time. You just didn't give yourself enough time is what he said, to do it right. There's something to respect in that. So it's cool to see. I'm not sure if I'll be big on this. I may check it out just to kind of get into that world and see what I think of it, since it is so, I'm such a big Diablo guy. It'd be cool to see, but I love the transparency. It's something you don't see too often.
I love these types of games. I honestly, I really do. Like Diablo, I've always been a fan of Diablo. I played Path of Titans, or it's not Path of Titans, or Titan Quest.
Oh, okay.
I've played a lot of these types of games. I was really curious about Last Epic for a while, which is fully out. That looks really, really good. I am a big fan of these. Path of Exile 2 looks like it is right up my alley. So I am personally very excited for this release. Now, I do want to clarify that this is the early access release. The game seems to be very, very fleshed out as far as the content that's going to be in the early access. But this is one of those ones where I have a feeling it's going to be in early access for probably 2 to 3 years before they get into the full release for it. But December 6th is the day now on that one. So, Ryan, we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to come back and talk about Avowed, which might be my most anticipated game at the top of my list once Stalker 2 comes out. But Avowed is going to be missing something, Ryan, and we're going to find out what that is here in just a minute.
Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sourbright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
All right, Ryan, we're back. I teased it before the break. Avowed, we got a little bit of news.
We did.
And that news, I'm okay with this, man, but this news might disappoint some people. But it also brings up a wider topic that I want to touch on for a minute. But Avowed has come out and they have said romance for the different characters, not part of this game.
Yes.
Veilguard tried to do romance, a little bit that kind of touched on it. And yes, you can, sort of kind of form relationships with some people in Veilguard. And but I'll be honest, it feels like an afterthought in Veilguard. Baldur's Gate 3, you can get steamy. You can have all the romance you want in Baldur's Gate 3, and it's done really, really well, in my opinion, in that game. But they came out and they just said, you know what? Romance is hard to do in a video game. Like, legitimately, it's hard to do. And if you don't do it right, it just feels weird. It feels off, which honestly, I'm going to say, I think is where, one of the things that Veilguard messed up on is the relationships in that game serve no purpose whatsoever. Why even spend the time trying to develop this and build this out if it's not going to be fully fledged and add to the game in any meaningful way? So I'm kind of glad that Avowed said, we're not doing it. Yeah. It's hard to do. Doesn't make sense. Not worth the time. Not really going to affect the game anyway. So we're not going to expend those resources trying to build out this huge romance system. So what are your thoughts on, number one, Avowed not having romance? And maybe on the larger scale of things, does it matter in a video game?
Did you know that Gran Turismo doesn't have a romance section? Do you know that?
I don't know, man. No? I love me some of those cars.
Oh, that's true. I just, it's one of those things. If you put it in and you put in the work and you do it right, it can make sense. Like you said, with Baldur's Gate 3, but, if it's not done well, it's not done properly, then it's a detriment to the game. It's something that, it's more than just an afterthought. It makes things kind of awkward and uncomfortable. Kind of, middle-aged teenagers, like that they're awkward. It's weird. That's what it kind of feels like in the game if it's not done right and done properly. Just doesn't fit. So it's never been a big thing to me. I know you can. The only one that I've ever actually enjoyed that part of it is like Fable. Remember making
where you could actually get married and it affected the game
and you could do all that stuff. That was the one I remember genuinely being like, oh, this is pretty cool. But I mean, even in Skyrim, you can make people, or any of these games. What's the game we just played? From the Bethesda. Shows how much Starfield, yeah. That was one you could do stuff, but it didn't really affect anything. I mean, you could get little perks here and there and stuff, but it's just, if it's not done super well, then it's not a positive. So I respect it. I think it's cool. Just, hey, we don't want to deal with this. We're going to focus on a good, solid, quality game that has awesome gameplay, awesome graphics and cinematics, and great story, and that'll be more than enough for anyone that wants to play it. So I'm happy with it.
I think it's a really smart decision, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It really bugs me. And it's a trend that we've seen in the last few years where if something worked once, people feel like they need to try to copy it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but then we see when it fails. And I'm just going to bring up Veilguard again because we're currently playing that game. And our next episode is actually going to be our review on that. But like, it's very, very rare in a video game where I have been like, man, I really wish this game had some romance to it. Like, I really want to try to develop a relationship with this character, and see where that goes or something like that. Like, and maybe that's just us, to where that's not why we're playing video games. And so I don't need that in a video game either. I mean, I do get where people get invested in the characters. And so if you have a relationship that they can build, that just fleshes out the characters even more. But I just have never, like you said it, I've never been in a game and gone, this game's missing romance.
Yeah.
And so I really like that the Obsidian went that direction with Avowed and just said, look, we want to have these stories for these characters and we are going to tell these stories, but trying to add romance just confuses everything.
Yeah.
You know? And so if you don't go down the path of romance, are you missing out on content with that character and cool backstory and other stuff? And so I like that they just said, we don't need this in our game. And honestly, I wish Veilguard had done that because I feel like it adds absolutely nothing to the game at all. But you know that it took time and resources to put all that in there, to write the lines, to have the voice actors read them and all that stuff too. So smart call, in my opinion. Don't miss it one bit. You know, and honestly, like romance in video games is not something that I think either you or I care about. And that's okay if you like it. I mean, I get why people would appreciate that, but I just don't think in this case it's one of those things where it's like, it's a necessity.
Yeah, and if it's part of the story and it's part of that journey to have that romantic encounter, cool. I love that. It adds more depth and more passion to what you're playing, and you understand your character more. But just the kind of these types of romance interactions that aren't necessary, aren't, you know, a thing you have to do. Yeah, I think it's a good call too.
I think Marin from Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order is cool. A perfect example, right? It's like, obviously there's some kind of relationship there. It doesn't have to be anything too incredibly deep or anything like that. You don't have to try to build it up or maybe go after somebody else or, you know, the warring relationships that we saw in like Baldur's Gate 3, where it's like, if you get caught romancing somebody else, well, guess what? That other relationship's done now. You know, that kind of stuff. So I like seeing developers being smart about this stuff and just coming out and saying, no, that's not part of our game. We don't need it.
Agreed.
So kudos there. Speaking of developers, Ryan, well, this is more a publisher, but you know, they're working hand in hand with developers because PlayStation has said that moving forward from 2025 on, that they will be releasing a major single player game every single year.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, I don't hate this news, man.
I'm stoked. As a single player guy, that I mean, I love multiplayers. Some of my favorite games ever are multiplayer, but I love a good, solid story that you can just play and dive into, and that leaves a memorable impact on you. And for them to really commit to trying to push this development, to keep these things coming to where it's not 5 years, 8 years between each kind of big release of these types of games. I'm so stoked, man.
They make phenomenal single player games. My favorite game of all time, God of War. I'm actually playing Ragnarok again for the second time, which is super rare for me. But I mean, Sony knows how to craft that single player experience. Honestly, like nobody else, in my opinion. I mean, Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima.
Horizon
Zero Dawn. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
keep going.
I was actually
going,
thinking, I know, I was thinking about that this morning because I was thinking about our Would You Rather episode that we just did and how I chose console. And I'm like, yeah, man, I was thinking about more series that I just absolutely love that came out, you know, on console, and they were Sony stuff. So you have so many of these games that are just legendary. So I'm stoked, man. It's going to be so cool.
I am very, very excited for this. So Sony was asked, hey, well, what about 2024? And they said, no, there's nothing else major coming out in 2024. And then people said, well, what about 2025? And they said, yeah, The Ghost of Yotei, which is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, is going to release in 2025. They also mentioned Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which is the sequel to that. There's the Wolverine game that they have in the works. No actual release date on that one yet. But then you just get some of these huge name developers that have confirmed that they are making single player games for the PlayStation. Naughty Dog has multiple games in the works. Santa Monica Studio, which might be my favorite studio in the world because they're the ones that brought us God of War and God of War Ragnarok, are working on something. You know, there's just a bunch of them, man. I could list off a ton of them. I mean, even the studio that brought us Astrobot is already working on something new, you know, for this stuff. So when you tell me that you're going to get a major single player game every year moving forward, and Sony has already committed to bringing this to PC as well. Like, I'm not naive enough to think that they won't ever do hey, we're going to release it on PlayStation for the first year and then we'll bring it to PC. But they have said that they plan on doing this more and more, where it's just a simultaneous PC release. This gets me super excited as a gamer,
I bet, man.
I mean, I'm all for it. The only thing that's weird to me about this is this, like, putting the pressure on yourself to say, hey, we're going to have this, blockbuster game every year. Because I feel like that's setting yourself up for some disappointment when something comes out a la Starfield and it's not quite what everybody thought it was going to be. Does it mean it's a flop? Not necessarily. Starfield's fine, in my opinion. But you kind of put that pressure on yourself as well. So I'm a little curious to see how they kind of deal with that also. And speaking of putting pressure on yourself, Ryan, and while we're on the topic of Sony, I don't know if you remember this, but Sony tried to come out and make every person that supported democracy and liberty across the galaxy to sign up for the PlayStation Network. Let me just take you back about, I don't know, what was this, 6 months when Sony came out and said, hey, Helldivers community, by the way, you guys have to sign up for a PlayStation Network account. And what was the fallout from...
You're going to sign up and you'll like it.
Yeah, and what was the fallout on that?
It was not good.
Oh, man. Helldivers 2, which is honestly one of the best games of 2024.
Oh, for sure.
Got review bombed into oblivion, man. And Sony finally backed down and they said, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you think they'd have learned their lesson. And the problem is that they didn't learn their lesson. They have had a couple other releases. I just got done talking about God of War Ragnarok. Guess what happened when God of War Ragnarok released on PC?
Oh, let us know.
This game should have come out to 98, 99% positive reviews.
I'd love to know.
Came out to mixed reviews because guess what Sony tried to do? They tried to make people sign up for a PlayStation Network account. So they're not letting go of this. And so a reporter actually asked them and said, hey, what's the deal with this, with the Steam / PlayStation Network?
There's got to be a good reason, right? Something so important, for the gamer overall.
Ryan, the most important thing for gamers is that they're safe.
Oh, really?
Because, the online world is a dangerous place. And, while you're bringing down Bile Titans and you're fighting, Thor and things like that, you got to be safe, man.
Yes, of course.
What better thing to keep you safe than a PlayStation Network account? How is this even a thing, man? How could you not see this, Ryan? Do you even care about me?
I'm almost like at a loss for words. I'm trying to this is so ridiculous. It's like they're in another board meeting and they're talking. They're like, all right, we got to come up with another way to try to make all these losers sign up for his PSN account. What are we going to do? And some dweeb over in the corner, make them do it for their safety. It's like,
dude,
brilliant, genius.
Dude, I'm just going to have to read this because this is the actual quote from, this is the guy from Sony. His name is Totoki. I want to make sure I said that. Yeah, I'm going to assume it's Totoki. Hiroki Totoki, who is the CFO.
What a sweet name.
For Sony, right? I mean, this guy is up there, right? I know it does. That's some good alliteration there too, right?
Yep.
So when asked about requiring the PlayStation Network for Steam games, he said, and this is after, he said, hey, people don't like this. And he goes, yeah, I know. He says, we've learned a lot. The way to face the issues regarding PC, for instance, the PlayStation accounts that we have offered, well, actually, by offering them, for instance, sometimes that tends to invite pushback. You think? But for the live service games, in order to maintain order of the gaming so that anybody can enjoy the game safely, we need to create an environment conducive to that and, of course, enjoy the game freely. Dude. Look, we just got done talking about what we love when developers are honest and upfront. Hey, we didn't want to release our game because there's 2 other games coming out that we don't want to compete with.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you, man. Thanks for being upfront. Hey, I goofed and we don't have the server architecture ready to go to to transfer everything from the first to the second game. Cool, man. Thanks for being upfront. Yeah, we're requiring a PlayStation Network account because we need everybody to be safe.
Yeah. We just want to make sure you're just going to be okay. I don't know if they must have never been in a Call of Duty lobby in like 2010.
I feel like this is just the dumbest excuse ever, man.
Oh yeah, it's
what are
wild.
you doing?
Yeah,
just ask. Come to our Discord server and say, hey guys, listen, we have to get more people to sign up for PlayStation Network. My bosses are going to fire me if we don't, but what can I tell people?
Yeah.
And like, we'll give you a valid something you can tell people that at least makes sense, but it sure as heck isn't going to be, well, you could tell them it's for their safety.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird how they think we're really that stupid. It's either they just don't.
It bugs me though.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Me too, man. It's don't sit here and lie to my face after all of the stuff you literally just went through. You saw the reaction of the people, and then they're staying firm and they're just gonna keep doing it, and it's wild. It's one of those things. It's like, how, as the gaming consumers, like, how are we supposed to fight this other than, you can review bomb and stuff like that, but then it's like the devs put all this hard work into these games. They created something that meant a lot to them, and because Sony is acting a fool, then it's screwing them over. It's just one of those things that it's tough, man. But I'm interested to see how everything kind of plays out with all this.
Yeah, I will say I do think there are laws about live service online games where the company is required to have some sort of moderation to it. I don't know how true that is, but I seem to recall reading something that there are some requirements if you have like an online game. But dude, Sony's been doing this stuff for everything, man.
Yeah.
They just want those numbers. So
something up their sleeve.
All right, listen, we're running low on time here, but we have to talk about this one real quick, Ryan, because I actually kind of found this story to be pretty entertaining as far as hitting home as well. But yeah. Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta Snake Eater is the remake of the original. From what we have seen, it looks pretty good. This is another game that got delayed because they said, hey, it's just not where we want it to be for right now. But somebody asked Konami and said, why Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater? Like, why that one? Why are you remaking that game out of all of them? And they came out and they actually said, Metal Gear Solid is not a well-known name amongst a lot of younger gamers. We feel like this franchise is losing its popularity, and we want to try to bring that back, especially for younger gamers. And you are a huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid games.
Yes, I am.
Famously, I had not played a Metal Gear Solid game until you forced me to play Metal Gear Solid 5, which I found to be fantastic.
Absolutely.
I mean, that game was great, but I don't know any of the other games. Now, I am an old school gamer where I played the old Metal Gear games on the NES. And then I was kind of like, what's this whole thing with Metal Gear Solid? And you guys explained that to me. But I am one of those people that have kind of fallen out of touch with the franchise. So I know that they're saying they're trying to recapture like the younger gamer and bring this franchise kind of to the forefront so it's a popular name for people. But it's also kind of working on me. You know what I mean? Because I am super interested in this game. I think it looks good. I'm curious to kind of see what the story is. The other thing with this one is it's the first game chronologically.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how much you know about all of the lore and the which game came first and all that, but do you think that this is a good idea starting with this game? I mean, under the pretense that they want to bring Metal Gear Solid kind of to the forefront and introduce it to people that may not be familiar with it. What are your feelings on this?
I do. I think that it's a great choice to do it chronologically like that, because then you get the backstory and understand who, Big Boss was. In this game, he's Naked Snake. It's kind of the original, and then this is where the rest of the story comes from this kind of whole interaction. This is what kind of made his legend and who he is. So I think it's awesome. It was a absolutely amazing game when it came out. I'm beyond excited to play it now whenever it finally releases. And then I know this personally for sure, especially after this one, and I really do think it'll land well. If they were to just remake, they do this one, then they do Metal Gear Solid 2, and then 4, and they just went through and remade them. And even, 4 really isn't, it's old, but it was on PS3, and it was a pretty good looking game for its age. But they would sell a bajillion copies, especially people that were big time fans. I would 100% buy Metal Gear Solid remake or remaster, however you want to do it. So if they were able to come back and do all this, it's gonna pan out well. I think it's gonna make them a heck of a lot of money, and I think it'll reignite a lot of passion and then introduce a lot of new people to this industry or this series that they just don't know about. You played, like we said, Metal Gear Solid 5 for the first time, and it was pretty old when you played it. It was like 5 years old. I think
it held up
something
really
like that,
well.
and so and it was like 5 or
6 years
still
old.
awesome. So and that's not my favorite in the series. So there's better games. They're just old. So if you had that much fun on that, playing something like this, that's new with the new engines we can do and the developers, what they can do with games nowadays, I think it's just going to tell an awesome story, amazing gameplay, and it's going to, like I said, sell a heck of a lot of copies.
Actually, Ryan, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out in 2015.
Yeah,
so
15
nine years of old when I played it.
And it looked awesome and it held up great. Gameplay was great. Graphics were great. Like it's a solid game, and it's almost a decade old. So if they can do these from 98 or whatever when Metal Gear came out, Metal Gear Solid, and redo that, I'm excited.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm pretty excited as well. This is a full remake. I mean, we've seen some footage of this game. It looks really well done. We were slamming remakes and remasters for a little while, but we've gotten some really, really good ones lately that have kind of reinforced like that they're trying to do it the right way. Silent Hill 2, Dead Space, I mean, Resident Evil 4. We've had all these really sound remakes coming out that are really good. Well, and so I'm hyped for this one as well.
And the thing is, video games are so much different than movies because, maybe we get better special effects and CGI and that stuff, but it's still a live action film. To where there's only so much you can do with a remake on a film for the same story. Like there's a million Batmans, there's a million there's all these that you can only do so much. A video game, it can be almost completely different with what they can do now versus 20 years ago with the graphics. Like there's just the gameplay, the quality of life stuff they'll be able to do, the way everything's set up. Like it's just a whole different world. And so I don't mind it as much in video games as I do in like the film industry. But I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for this. And you brought up a good point because if this game does well, they're just going to go right down the line.
It's going to be easy money. I mean, they're going to have to put a lot of work into it.
It's a good franchise, man. This is a franchise that deserves to be around. So I love what they said. You know what? Hey, Metal Gear Solid, great games, beloved franchise. Enough people don't know about it anymore, so we're trying to bring that back. And if they pull this off with this game, I think they are going to bring it back. And then that's only going to lead to the whole series at that point, which for somebody like me that hasn't experienced that gets me excited as well, because it's like, dude,
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know when Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is coming out. Initially, people thought it was going to be late 2024. Right now, the hope is that it's going to be first half of 2025, but nobody really knows. I would bet that it's going to come out in 2025 if I was a betting man, but when is the question. So... all right, well, listen, that does it for this episode of This Week in Gaming. Thank you for tuning in and joining Ryan and myself as we break down this week's news for you. Check out Stalker 2 if you haven't looked into this. We don't get paid for this. This is just gamers getting excited about something. So we will absolutely be doing a deep dive on that game. It will actually be our last deep dive for 2024. So because then we're going to get into our Game of the Year awards, and then it's Christmas, and we always take a 2-week break.
Let's go out with a bang, baby.
Oh yeah, I'm so hopeful, man. Please let it be good. Please let it be good.
I know. Oh, and I did want to mention before we sign off too. We did recently have Death Tony Todd. He's a big time. I didn't want to mention that big time horror actor. You probably remember him from like Candyman, The Crow, The Rock. That's the bit.
Yeah, The Rock.
I watched Candyman when I was a kid, dude, and I just I didn't even want to eat candy forever. No bees. Stay away from the bees. But he did a ton of voice acting. So he was in Masters of the Universe, Half-Life Alyx, Justice League Dark. But most recently, he was Venom in Spider-Man 2. He did an awesome job. So just throwing that out there. He passed away, so lost a good one.
Press F to pay respects, people.
Pay respects.
Yeah.
F in the chat.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Video Gamers Pod. If you haven't followed the show already, please take a second, look in your podcast app, click that follow button, click that plus button. That way you get all our episodes the day that they release. And if you want to go the extra mile, if you have been a listener for a while and you've been enjoying this content that we put out there, take a second to just think about supporting the show. It really does make a huge difference for us to be able to continue to do this, to play these games, do these reviews, and bring you the best content we can. You can support us over at multiplayersquad.com. You get a shout out, you get early access, ad-free episodes, and some goodies. So it's definitely worth checking out. Also, again, that's multiplayersquad.com. That's it for this one. We'll be back with our Dragon Age Veilguard review. That is going to be our next episode. You do not want to miss that one. Until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.